Human beings have existed for only a fleeting instant in Earth's history, about 3 million years if we count the earliest species of the genus Homo. 3 million years. It sounds long, but in the 4.5 billion year flow of this planet's timeline, it's merely a blink of the universe's eye. And yet, in that single blink, our ancestors witnessed things beyond imagination. Untamed lands, winds from the Ice Age, and creatures so immense they made early humans tremble in fear. This is not legend, but an evolutionary truth. There was a time when humans did not stand atop the food chain. Beneath ancient lakes, hidden in the shadows of prehistory, lurked predators large enough to swallow a human whole in a single bite. If you trace the timeline of life, you'll see that humankind is only a latecomer in a play that has been running for hundreds of millions of years. When the first steps of Homo habilis stumbled across the African plains, crocodiles were already seasoned survivors, witnesses to the rise and fall of dinosaurs, to the shifting of seas, and to mass extinctions that erased nearly every other species. The ancestors of modern crocodiles appeared about 90 million years ago in the late Cretaceous, at the same time as Tyrannosaurus rex. When the meteor struck Earth and wiped out nearly all life on land, the crocodiles endured, not because they were the strongest, but because they waited. Their bodies are masterpieces of evolution, thick armor-like skin, daggered jaws, efficient lungs, and a 4-chambered heart like that of mammals, allowing them to stay submerged for hours without breathing. They are perfect ambush predators. No need to chase, no need to change, only to stay still. For tens of millions of years, that hunting strategy never went out of style. When the dinosaurs vanished, when mammoths appeared and then disappeared, crocodiles remained almost unchanged. Around 5 million years ago, as Africa entered a long dry phase, the first humans of the genus Homo emerged. Homo habilis, Australopithecus, and Kenyanthropus all lived around freshwater lakes and great rivers. There they found food, water, and shelter, but also wandered unknowingly into the territory of true rulers, the crocodiles. At that time, the genus Crocodylus, the lineage of modern crocodiles, was thriving across the tropics. From the Nile to the Congo Basin, from Lake Turkana to the ancient Tethys Sea, they spread like living survival machines. While humans were still learning to chip stone tools, crocodiles had already perfected their art of killing. That was the beginning of a long relationship, one both adversarial and intertwined through evolution. Humans needed water to live. Crocodiles needed prey to approach the shore. One side grew smarter, more observant, more cautious. The other stayed silent, patient, and waiting. And so, these two evolutionary paths met at the same watering hole, but never on equal terms. Fossil evidence shows that from very early on, ancient human bones were found alongside crocodile remains, some bearing deep tooth marks, proof of the first recorded clashes between reptiles and humankind. Those hunts were not rare. They happened often, repeated over hundreds of generations. And with each encounter, the fear of deep water carved itself deeper into human instinct. It's hard to imagine, but during the Pliocene and early Pleistocene, between 5.3 and 1.8 million years ago, across the sunlit savannas of East Africa, where humans first evolved, water marked the boundary between life and death. On one side lay dry land, where humans could spot danger from afar. On the other, calm, mirror-like lakes, where death glided just beneath the surface. It was the age when the largest crocodiles ever to exist began to rise. Not just oversized individuals, but true giants, over 8 meters long, weighing up to 2.5 tons, capable of taking down baby elephants or even hippos. And ironically, they appeared just as humans were learning to live in groups, to hunt, and to survive. In evolution, no meeting is without meaning. Humanity's encounter with the crocodile was no coincidence. It was our first great test of survival. One side relied on strength and instinct. The other began to wield intelligence and tools. And from that very threat, humankind learned its most valuable lessons: vigilance, planning, and an instinctive fear of nature itself. But when it comes to prehistoric crocodiles, not all were the same. Alongside familiar species like the Nile crocodile, ancestor of the modern kind, there existed two true monsters, two apex predators that left a terrifying mark on human prehistory. Crocodylus thorbjarnarsoni, the swimming tank that once lived side by side with Homo habilis, and Crocodylus anthropophagus, the man-eater, a horned crocodile that terrorized the ancient waters of Olduvai. They did not merely share the earth. They faced each other, hunted, killed, and survived together. And now, millions of years later, all that remains are fossils and questions. Who truly ruled that age? Humankind, or the ancient reptile beneath the water? Over 1 million years ago, across the great Paleo Lake of Turkana, in what is now northern Kenya, the sky mirrored perfectly on its glassy surface. Herds of ancient antelope, hippos, and early humans like Homo habilis often came to drink. But beneath the murky water, a giant waited. No ripples, no sound. Only when the surface exploded and the first scream broke the silence. It was already too late. That creature was Crocodylus thorbjarnarsoni, the largest crocodile ever recorded in the genus Crocodylus, and perhaps one of the biggest predators ever to confront humankind. In 2010, paleontologists in Kenya discovered a series of enormous crocodile skulls along the shores of Lake Turkana. The largest skull measured nearly 1 meter in length, with teeth as thick as a human thumb. At first, they thought it belonged to an unusually large Nile crocodile. But skeletal comparison revealed something astonishing. This was an entirely new species, Crocodylus thorbjarnarsoni, dating from the late Pliocene to early Pleistocene, roughly 2 to 1.5 million years ago. Fossil evidence suggests it reached lengths of 7.6 to 8.2 meters, as long as a bus, and weighed over 2.5 tons. The skull alone weighed more than 100 kilograms, strong enough to crush a horse's skull with a single bite. Its neck and body bones were incredibly dense and reinforced, almost without weak points. The tail was long and muscular, capable of generating thrust 3 times stronger than that of modern saltwater crocodiles. In other words, if today's crocodile is a silent killer, thorbjarnarsoni was the primeval prototype of a biological tank. At the time, East Africa was a vast ecosystem of lakes, swamps, and riverine forests, an ideal paradise for such a giant. It could lie motionless for hours, waiting for the faintest sound, the step of a gazelle, or the splash of an early human washing by the shore. A single bite from thorbjarnarsoni is estimated to have produced over 16,000 newtons of force, more than twice that of the modern saltwater crocodile, already the strongest bite on Earth. One strike could shatter a human femur or crush a young hippo's frame. It not only hunted on land, but could ambush underwater, using its elevated eyes and nostrils, to see and breathe without breaking the surface. And when it attacked, its strategy never changed. Grab, spin, drag down. A single death roll could tear flesh, snap bones, and end with the victim swallowed whole. Archaeologists have discovered in the sediment layers around Lake Turkana fossils of ancient humans alongside crocodile bones from the same time period. Although no direct tooth marks have been found on human bones, scientists believe it's highly likely that this species hunted early humans. The reason is simple. Ancient humans lived along the lakeshore, and the giant crocodiles lived in the lake. Their paths were destined to cross. Some experts have even proposed a chilling hypothesis. Due to its enormous size and tremendous bite force, thorbjarnarsoni could have swallowed its prey whole, leaving no bones behind, which would explain the lack of evidence. If that theory is true, then the reason we don't find bite marks on human fossils is because nothing was left to find. To picture it clearly, the size difference between thorbjarnarsoni and an early human was like that between a modern saltwater crocodile and a small dog. In that world, Homo habilis was not the hunter, it was moving food. What made this crocodile nearly immortal in nature was its perfect defense system. Its skin wasn't just thick, it was reinforced with tiny bony plates called osteoderms, forming natural armor strong enough to deflect stone-tipped spears. Even large predators of the same era, like marsupial lions or saber-toothed cats, couldn't seriously injure it. The eyes of thorbjarnarsoni could see clearly in low light, a perfect adaptation for murky water or dusk when prey was least alert. Combined with an extraordinarily sharp sense of smell, it could detect wounded animals or movement at watering holes hundreds of meters away. All of these traits made Crocodylus thorbjarnarsoni the undisputed ruler of its era. A creature with virtually no natural enemy. To the ancient humans who saw it, it was likely not just an animal, but a god of death, hiding beneath the surface. Even today, ancient African tribal art still depicts massive crocodile-like beasts with dragon heads, revered as spirits of the water. Some anthropologists believe these could be collective memories passed down for tens of thousands of years, echoes from a time when humans truly lived in fear of being dragged into lakes by such a creature. That fear has never completely vanished. It lives on in our instincts, that unease when we see still water, that shiver when golden eyes flicker beneath the mud. For though thorbjarnarsoni has been extinct for over 1 million years, its legacy endures in the saltwater and Nile crocodiles of today. These descendants of an ancient bloodline still carry on the struggle for survival their ancestors once dominated. And as thorbjarnarsoni slowly disappeared from Lake Turkana, nature prepared a new successor, a creature not only massive, but far more savage. A species whose very name sent shivers down the spines of early humans. Crocodylus anthropophagus, the man-eater. When thorbjarnarsoni, the swimming tank, faded from Turkana's waters, nature did not leave its throne vacant for long. From the southern lands, in what is now the Olduvai Basin of Tanzania, a new predator emerged, as large as its predecessor, but wilder, bolder, and bloodier. Its name, Crocodylus anthropophagus, comes from Greek, meaning the man-eater. And this time, the name wasn't metaphorical. It was written in fossilized truth. Anthropophagus appeared in the late Pliocene as thorbjarnarsoni entered its twilight age. The two species may have overlapped in territory, but while thorbjarnarsoni was a patient ambush hunter, anthropophagus was a reckless, aggressive killer. It averaged 7.5 meters in length and weighed over 2 tons, its long, conical teeth designed to pierce and hold prey with terrifying efficiency. But what truly set it apart and made it so terrifying were the bony ridges rising like horns behind its eyes, near the ears. This feature gave anthropophagus the appearance of a nightmare creature, a horned giant crocodile with blazing yellow eyes, armor-plated skin, and a bite powerful enough to shatter any being that dared approach the water's edge. Paleontologists believe that these horns were not just for display. They may have served as weapons in combat between males or as ornaments to attract mates during the breeding season. Whatever their purpose, they made this creature a living embodiment of terror in the ancient world. Unlike thorbjarnarsoni, Crocodylus anthropophagus left undeniable evidence of hunting humans. In the sediment layers near Outlived Gorge, the cradle of humankind, where countless Homo habilis fossils have been found, archaeologists discovered human bones bearing crocodile bite marks. The deep, evenly spaced, cone-shaped punctures matched perfectly with the teeth of anthropophagus. In most specimens, the bites were located on the legs or thighs, the exact spots crocodiles attack when prey approaches the water's edge. This suggests they ambushed from below, waiting for the slightest carelessness before striking. One particularly chilling find: a human fossil with a crushed leg bone showing crocodile bites and claw marks from a large prehistoric cat, possibly a saber-toothed cat or an ancient lion. In other words, the unfortunate victim was dragged into the water, escaped only to die under the claws of another predator. A tragic ending. Proof that in that era, nature had no room for luck. Paleontologists once wondered if thorbjarnarsoni and anthropophagus lived at the same time, both large, both deadly. Why only anthropophagus left evidence of attacking humans? The answer is even more terrifying. The fossils with bite marks all came from medium-sized individuals, meaning the truly massive ones, over 7 meters long, left no trace at all. This leads to a grim hypothesis. When crocodiles grew that large, they likely swallowed prey whole, leaving no bones to fossilize. A perfect silence after the strike. A death without evidence. Though still speculation, this fits the behavioral patterns of modern crocodiles. Smaller ones drag prey to shore and tear it apart. Giants devour it underwater. If true, then anthropophagus was not only a man-eater, it was nature's perfect eraser. And it didn't just prey on humans. Anthropophagus could hunt anything: antelope, buffalo, even young elephants or rhinos. Its colossal build and crushing bite meant it didn't need to choose. It was the apex predator of the African Pleistocene. Fossil evidence of feeding marks on other animal bones shows that this species thrived in shallow lakes and riversides, where mammals came to drink or cross. The strategy never changed in millions of years. Hide, strike fast, drag into the dark. What's most remarkable and frightening is that anthropophagus did not fear humans. While other predators avoided fire or noise, crocodiles approached, even attacking at night. This led many scientists to believe that Homo habilis lived in constant fear, and that this fear may have been a driving force in the evolution of human intelligence and social cooperation. To survive, they had to stay alert, work together, and learn to recognize danger, especially from what lurked beneath the surface. In the folklore of many East African tribes, there are still tales of river spirits that devour humans, horned crocodile-like beasts that drag people into the depths. Anthropologists suggest these stories could be ancestral memories passed down for hundreds of generations, remnants of real encounters between humans and anthropophagus millions of years ago. Over time, those memories turned into myth, then into rituals honoring the gods of the river. But behind those legends lies a cold truth. There was once an age when water, the source of life, was also the dwelling place of death. Around 1.8 million years ago, Crocodylus anthropophagus disappeared from the waters of Olduvai. The exact cause has not yet been determined, but scientists believe that climate change and competition for survival were the key factors. As the lake shrank, temperatures shifted, and food sources dwindled, giant species like anthropophagus could not adapt quickly enough. They gradually died out, making way for smaller, more agile species that required less energy, such as the modern Nile crocodile. Yet even though their bodies were buried beneath layers of ancient rock, the name man-eater still echoes through time. For across millions of years, that memory has never faded. As the sun sets over Lake Olduvai, the water slowly turns a deep crimson. Ancient humans gather by the shore, their eyes glancing toward the gentle ripples in the distance. No one speaks, but everyone knows that beneath, in the darkness of the past, something still waits. Next, we will explore the final mystery of the Swamp Kings. Why did the mightiest creatures on the planet go extinct? And what does that reveal about the limits of nature itself? For millions of years, nature has witnessed countless empires rise and fall. And the Swamp Kings, Crocodylus thorbjarnarsoni and Crocodylus anthropophagus, were no exception. They were once absolute rulers, possessing power, size, and hunting skill so perfect it seemed they could never die out. Yet around 1.8 million years ago, both species suddenly vanished from Lakes Turkana and Olduvai, lands that had once been their strongholds. There was no obvious catastrophe, no falling meteor, no sign of mass extinction. They disappeared quietly, as if the earth itself had swallowed them whole. So what caused these perfect killing machines to collapse? In nature, being large is not always an advantage. When the planet's climate began to fluctuate violently during the transition from the Pliocene to the Pleistocene, the Great Lakes of East Africa, the lifeblood of thorbjarnarsoni and anthropophagus, began to shrink. Temperatures dropped, rainfall became unpredictable, wetlands contracted, and the food chain fell apart piece by piece. With bodies weighing more than 2 tons, the giant crocodiles needed enormous quantities of food, from antelope and young hippos to early humans. As large prey became scarce, they couldn't adapt by hunting smaller animals. They were too slow, too heavy, and burned immense energy with every strike. The very anatomy that had once made them dominant now became a burden for survival. They were like warships stranded in a harbor when the tide receded. Meanwhile, smaller, lighter species such as the early Nile crocodile could survive in shallow wetlands, feeding on fish, birds, or even carrion, far more flexible in their habits. It was this simplicity and adaptability that allowed the smaller ones to endure, while the giants were erased by time. Crocodiles are among the most unchanged creatures in evolutionary history. Their body plan has remained stable for almost 80 million years. That stability was once an advantage, but when the environment shifted, it became a trap. During the colder climatic period, the average temperature in East Africa dropped sharply and the dry season grew longer. Many lakes receded. Falling water levels destroyed the deep pools where the giant crocodiles once hid. The giants needed deep water to cool their bodies. They could not withstand long hours of sunlight on land like the smaller species. Once the lakes dried up, they had no refuge left. Moreover, as large prey migrated or went extinct, anthropophagus and thorbjarnarsoni faced competition from their own relatives. Smaller species of crocodylus, such as C. niloticus, the ancestor of the Nile crocodile, were faster, bred earlier, and could move easily between lakes. The strongest was no longer the survivor. The fastest to adapt was. Discoveries from Lake Turkana show that at least 4 other crocodile genera coexisted with the two giants, including Rimasuchus lloydi, a formidable rival reaching 8 meters in length. Competition among crocodile species, sharing the same habitats, fragmented resources, and as the climate worsened, the bulkier ones were the first to be eliminated. For the giant crocodiles, there was no chance to change. Their genetics were optimized for power, not agility. Once the environment no longer suited them, they died within their own perfection. Today, the geological strata around Lakes Turkana, Olduvai, and Tana still hold massive bone fragments, the final proof of an age when the water's edge was the boundary between humans and monsters. Those skeletons lie silent within the sedimentary rock, telling the story of a species that once ruled, and was then erased by nature itself. And perhaps the most terrifying thing is not that they existed, but how they disappeared. No signs of disease, no battle wounds, only silence stretching across millennia. The last individuals may have died alone at the bottoms of dried-up lakes, buried beneath mud, a symbol of the limits of evolutionary power. Though thorbjarnarsoni and anthropophagus vanished, their bloodline did not. Through genetics and fossils, scientists have confirmed that modern crocodiles, such as the saltwater crocodile, Crocodylus porosus, and the Nile crocodile, C. niloticus, are distant descendants of those ancient giants. They are smaller, yet they retain the same instincts and body design, a streamlined echo of the past. Today, every time a crocodile ambushes prey on the banks of the Nile, every time a traveler is taken by a saltwater crocodile in Southeast Asia, it is the lingering echo of the thorbjarnarsoni and anthropophagus era. Those fossilized names still live on, in the DNA of reptiles and in the primitive fear etched deep within humankind. Many paleontologists believe that if not for climate change, those giant crocodiles might still exist today. Imagine a still lake in Kenya, the surface calm, and beneath it, a monster more than 8 meters long gliding silently. A single ripple, and the whole lake erupts. Yet perhaps their extinction was a gift to humanity, because if anthropophagus still lived, we might never have dared to bathe in a river. The disappearance of these giant swamp kings was not an end. It was the beginning of an age for smaller, smarter survivors, including us. For when the monsters fell, humankind began to rise. More than 1 million years have passed, yet the shadows of those colossal beasts have never truly vanished. They live on in our evolutionary memory, in the instinctive fear of still water, in the unconscious caution that grips us when we step into a river. For though thorbjarnarsoni and anthropophagus have turned to stone, their descendants still glide silently beneath the surface, in a world that humans think they rule. Perhaps, in the moment you gaze down at a tranquil river, a pair of golden eyes is staring back from the darkness below. Prehistory never truly ended. It merely hides beneath the water, waiting for a blink of an eye to return.